From posting spoilers to impersonating someone from the community, here are 25 ways you can get banned in Destiny 2. Obviously, I would recommend avoiding these things at all costs in order to stay safe, and with that said, let's begin with number 25. Our first one is account sharing, but it's not quite as simple as the title might suggest. Bungie is actually okay with account sharing in general, but if you do account sharing in certain ways, it is a surefire way to get banned. To clarify that a little bit, they are totally fine with someone sharing the same console in your house or maybe getting on a friend's account to try out one of their new weapons. However, where it starts to get bad is where someone goes on your account for the purpose of getting you loot. Like, for example, if you do a Trials account recovery, especially a paid one, that is definitely against the rules and will definitely get you banned. The next one is frequent quitting, and this one is interesting because I do know that they impose temporary penalties for people who do this, but it seems that they can also impose a permanent ban if you do this habitually over a very long period of time. Especially if you're doing this in an endgame activity like Trials and you're just constantly queuing in and constantly quitting every single week, I can see why this would degrade the experience of other players and could potentially result in a ban. Next up, we have personal information, because apparently this is not allowed to be shared on any Bungie service, including the game itself or even something like the Bungie forums. According to Bungie, your personal information includes, but is not limited to, your real-life name, your addresses, your other online handles, phone numbers, messaging app profiles, and email addresses. You might say this is obvious, but next up we have cheating, where people just hack the game and get unfair advantages. Bungie has even been known to slap people with lawsuits of like $500,000 for cheating in their games, so definitely stay away from this one. Number 20 is network manipulation, net limiting, or lag switching. Lag switching was an especially big issue in Destiny 1, and it was pretty obvious because people would just start going around the map teleporting and instantly one-hitting you with their melees. More recently though, there has been quite an issue with net limiting, and this is when you limit certain traffic that is going into the internet, and you can do this to get extra damage or just exploit the game in a variety of ways. One of the most common uses is for dealing boss damage, where you use your super or something and then just repeat that action over and over, and then when you reconnect to the game, it just instantly chunks the boss all the way down to 0 health, and yeah, it's pretty obvious that you are net limiting. Bungie takes anything related to network manipulation very seriously, and they've even had several very public ban waves for people who are exploiting this. It might seem strange, but just lagging in general is also another way you can get banned from Destiny. I haven't seen a ton of permanent bans for this, but I've definitely seen tons of temporary restrictions for people who are consistently lagging in multiple games. It's extremely scummy to do this, but I've recently seen a trend of people kicking their fireteam members just before the activity ends in order to deny them from getting loot. This is absolutely trash behavior and is definitely a bannable offense. Next up, we have win trading. If you ever try to exploit the game by intentionally queuing up against your friends or perhaps matching against a bot or something, this is definitely against the rules and will lead to you getting banned. Win trading used to be something that was really common back in the day, especially in stuff like Trials, but it seems that Bungie has really cracked down on banning these people because I have not encountered many win traders in recent years. There are certain legal accessibility tools that can be used to help people play the game, but specifically using these tools to gain an unfair advantage is definitely something that will get you banned. The way that Bungie looks at this is they're not okay with modified stuff or programmable controllers that can add extra aim assist or control the recoil for you or anything like that. But if you're simply using an accessibility device in order to play the game, then it's totally fine. Another distinction that is really important is, quote, experiencing the game as the designers intended. Anything that allows you to experience things in a different way than the designers intended is considered cheating under this policy. Advertising/solicitation is perhaps the easiest way you could possibly get banned in Destiny 2. This is essentially if you're on the forums or in the game chat and you're offering a service of something or even requesting to buy a service of something. This could be something related to the game like a recovery or carry service, but it could also be just completely unrelated, such as an Amazon referral link or some other type of advertisement. I say that this is an easy way to get banned because soliciting stuff in the game is very obvious and Bungie will have easy access to these chat logs that they can just look up. Next up is anything that falls under the category of disrespect or harassment. If you engage in any sort of threatening activity, even if it's a joke, Bungie considers this to be an extremely bad and bannable offense. Perhaps the most common example of this is simply sending someone a disrespectful or hateful message after a game of Crucible, and I will admit this happens quite a bit. Sometimes when I have a really good game, the people on the other team just assume that I'm cheating and they send some absolutely vile messages my way. It seems that Bungie takes this section of the rules very seriously because they also include a note that threats may be reported to law enforcement agencies. Another way you could get banned is by impersonation, whether that's impersonating a content creator or just anyone in the community. This can include anything from copying the usernames, the profile pictures, the profile information, or just falsely claiming that you are someone who you actually are not. The impersonation policy does apply to literally everybody in the community, but it seems that Bungie takes impersonation of their own employees extra seriously. They added an extra note that says impersonation of Bungie representatives will result in harsh punishment. You might think that your actions outside of gaming and outside of Bungie services are completely unrelated to Destiny, but Bungie can actually ban you if they catch you doing anything illegal. Allegedly, there have been people who actually got banned after tweeting about doing something illegal, and then Bungie linked their Twitter account to their Destiny account due to screenshots and other information they had posted. A much more straightforward example of this policy is plotting crimes or just discussing anything that's really illegal within the game, because like I talked about earlier, Bungie has extensive chat logs and they will have no problem catching you. It's always a good idea to report people who are bad actors within the game, especially if they're doing something particularly awful like cheating or harassing you. However, incorrectly or falsely using the report feature on someone else can actually lead to a ban of your own account. If you're constantly reporting people who are actually innocent, or especially if you're using the report feature on Bungie's website, they've said that they will actually just come and ban you. I still think it's very important to report suspected cheaters even if you aren't 100% sure they are cheating, so just make sure you aren't spamming reports because that is what can get you in trouble. The next item on our list is attempts to fish for or harvest accounts, account details, or other credentials. I suppose this one is pretty straightforward and obvious, just don't try to scam people and you won't get banned. If you get caught breaking any of these rules, and ultimately that leads to an in-game ban or suspension, I would definitely not recommend making a new account, because it's also against the rules to evade any type of ban or suspension. Allegedly, this happens quite a bit where cheaters get banned and then they decide to change their ways and start a new account fresh, but then they get perpetually banned over and over every time they make a new account because of their history of cheating. In my time playing Destiny, I've definitely seen a lot of awesome and creative names, both for clans and for players. However, it's important to make sure that these names are appropriate and follow the code of conduct, because bad names or evading any type of language filter is a surefire way to get yourself banned. If you type in a name and then it gets flagged by the language filter, you should definitely not try an alternative spelling or anything like that, because as soon as people see it, they'll report you and then you'll get banned for evasion. I remember one such time where someone found one of these names and they just posted it on Twitter, and then DMG replied, "This breaks our code of conduct. The player in question will be banned. Please make sure to report any names like this at the platform level too." Another one is clans. Like, I've seen some pretty awful clan descriptions or even just bad things in the name of the clan itself. All of the same rules apply to the name of your clan. It's also against the rules to have any discussion or reference to politics or religion within your clan description or the chat of the game itself, so be sure to steer clear of that. Bungie does, however, make an exception if you're talking about the politics or religion within the actual game itself and the story, so you're definitely clear to talk about that. Like I mentioned earlier, it's definitely a good idea to report people who you suspect are cheating, but on the other hand, it's definitely a bad idea to name and shame suspected cheaters. Bungie takes issue with this because sometimes it might appear that somebody is cheating, but in reality, they're just lagging really bad, or perhaps they're really good at the game. If you start shaming someone for cheating all over the Bungie forums, this is kind of a no-no, because there isn't really a way for you to confirm with 100% certainty that they are actually indeed cheating. I feel like a lot of people might not be aware of this one, but the next way you can get banned is by ruining the experience of other players by circulating spoilers. This refers to any elements or information that expose important story details that a user didn't want to know about without their approval. For example, if you start talking to other players, or perhaps you even go to the tower and post in the local chat about the latest expansion, Bungie is not going to be too happy about that. They also mentioned that this includes leaked content and any data mined information, so it's really important not to share that with people unless they actually want to hear about it. When it comes to the game itself and anything related to Bungie, they say that spoilers for Bungie games and related media, as well as spoilers for non-Bungie games and media, are prohibited and will be removed. We discussed earlier that cheating within the actual game will obviously get you banned, but you can actually also be banned for cheating within another game. If the Destiny anti-cheat detects that you have cheating programs that are specifically marketed as cheating programs on your computer, this can lead to a permanent ban in the game. A recent and prominent example of this was when a world's first raider named Cruz got permanently banned because he had a cheat for a single-player game that was on his system. Of course, it's impossible for me to confirm this with 100% certainty, but he did say that this was never used in Destiny, so if you're thinking about downloading any suspicious software, you should probably think twice. Buying or selling accounts or anything within Destiny itself is something that is strictly prohibited. Allegedly, this does still happen, but I hear that a large percentage of the people who are buying and selling accounts do eventually get caught and banned by Bungie. This next one is definitely something you need to be proactive and look out for, because you can actually be banned for just playing with cheaters and not actually cheating yourself. If you're on the LFG and you join up with some guy who happens to be using an illegal service, you can also get banned if you play with him and complete a raid or go flawless in Trials of Osiris. For this reason, I'd say that it's definitely important to at least keep an eye on your teammates and make sure that they're not doing anything outrageous or suspicious. If they just randomly one-shot the raid boss, it's probably a good time to leave the fire team. Another thing to be careful about is that paid carry services also often involve playing with a cheater, so I would definitely recommend avoiding these at all costs, even if you're still playing on the account yourself. A recent example of a lot of people getting banned was when Bungie had the Into the Light livestream and they accidentally leaked the name of their Steam account. Since the name was now public, a lot of people were able to send friend requests to the account that was live streaming. Since a little notification pops up when you receive a friend request, some people were renaming themselves to really awful things, and then that would actually appear on the stream. And it turns out that Bungie tracked down and banned all of the people who did this. These people must have been pretty daft, because they were basically targeting and publicly harassing Bungie in front of 100,000 live viewers, so it seems that they got what they deserved when they got banned. An interesting rule that you can find in the Code of Conduct is that using an external program or device to automate gameplay or circumvent idle detection is technically not allowed. I say that it is interesting because it seems that it's not enforced, because I've seen a lot of people who just have macros or other programs running in the background that allow them to farm while they're AFK. I'm not really sure if Bungie will start enforcing this one sometime in the future, but if you want to stay extremely safe, it's probably just in your best interest to not actually do this type of thing in the game. If you ever try to modify the files or have any modified hardware, or basically anything related to Destiny that doesn't come as it's intended, that is also a very easy way to get yourself banned. This includes anything related to modified console firmware or modified operating systems, including emulators or virtual machines. So if you're going to play Destiny, definitely steer clear of those. An example of this is you're not allowed to play Destiny on the Steam Deck, and if you try to modify something to get around this restriction, it could result in a ban. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video about the 25 ways you could be banned in Destiny. Next up, I recommend watching this video about 20 things that all returning players must know, because there have been some absolutely huge changes in the past few years. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.